Hello, everybody. It is your professor, Rocco, your boy, coming at you again in a Mets hat, doing another AoS 101 video. In this class, we are going to be talking about once per game abilities because I feel like we actually haven't really covered them that often or that much, and the new edition of, third edition of Age of Sigmar really likes using them as a tool to have really, really powerful things for factions and then curb it. So you have to be smart, and it adds like another tactical level to what you have to do as a general for your army. So let's just dive right in, as always. What do I mean by a once per game ability? This is a literal. It's usually, if it was in an older codex and brought in, it is an ability that is just once per game. It can be super strong. Sometimes it's situational. But if you play it right, it can tip the balance of the game in your favor and just ruin your opponent's strategies and whatever they're trying to do. All right, so like examples of this are the holy commands from the Stormcast. They have a once per game in the hero phase, shoot with one of your units. Once per game, return a unit of 5 redeemers. It's like their basic baseline infantry, like liberators, vindictors, and sequitors. I believe are still on that list as well. It's off a keyword. Think once per game run and charge. These used to be mechanics, like the run and charge and the hero phase shoot. These used to be major mechanics that were Stormhost level or hero buff worthy in the case of the old Anvils of the Heldenhammer. You used to be able to shoot in every hero phase or fight. Everyone forgot about the fight. That's why I liked using them. And then the run and charge used to be an ability on the Knight Heralder. Sorry for the shake there with my camera. And they were so strong and they would break the back of so many armies, they got reduced to these once per game abilities. Now, are they still really strong? Yes. They are amazingly good for what they do. But when do you actually use them? Well, Professor Rocco, with a good segue, and if you hear the rain too, I might actually keep the rain in because it's got a great thunderstorm going on right now. But back to the topic, when do you use these potentially game-breaking abilities that are just once per game? Well, I actually learned this from 40K and how they do command points. So now hear me out here. I've seen get different game systems, even in tabletop RPGs, um, where you have a finite resource of a thing, right? Let's say it's even Dungeons and Dragons. You have a health potion, right? Or you have a buff potion in some of these cases. Let's say it's a buffing potion. It's the vial of fire breathing or whatever. When do you want to use it? When you're in a very important fight and kind of early in that fight, because if you go down before you get the full effect out of it, it's just going to be a waste. Like the fire breathing potion in Dungeons and Dragons has 3 charges. And, if you don't get all 3 of those blasts out as a bonus action over 3 rounds of combat, you're wasting the whole item and the whole thing. When it comes to 40K with spending command points, they've got all those different abilities where you spend a command point on, all the stratagems. They only work if you still have troops to spend them on. And in Age of Sigmar, if you need to use that hero phase once per game shooting ability if you're a Stormcast player, it only works if you have the full strength unit of people to shoot with at its most effective. Like for me with the 6 long strike build that I love, I haven't taken it to tournaments because I feel bad, but I love it. I loved it through second when I used to have 9 of them in there, and I could shoot every hero phase. But now I've got 6 long strikes, right? I shoot them in the hero phase, and because I believe it should just be in the hero phase, that means I should be able to teleport like a unit of Aether Wings up to give me +1 to hit. So, I can make them hitting on 2s. They naturally wound on 2s. It's a really nice and strong combo that I'm going to double check myself right now. Unique enhancements. Holy Aid here. We've got Thunderbolt Volley. Use this once per battle in your hero phase. Yep. Just in the hero phase, you can shoot that phase. So you can do beginning of phase stuff. It's your turn. You just set your order. So I can set up the perfect combo at the top of one. And even if my main target that I'd want to kill isn't on the table, it's in reserve, it's wherever, I am going to have, assuming 6 long strikes, they get 2 shots each, 12 shots going out on 2s and 2s because I teleported my Aether Wings with the Praetor teleport them to hit whatever. And you know what? It's probably going to be dead. Then I get a hero phase to do it again. And at that point, because of how expensive that unit is, I've already had 2 battle rounds worth of shooting just from my turn 1. And that unit that's almost like 500 points around there is kind of appropriately priced, and it'll do about that much damage. And I basically shot 1,000 points of my army at probably about 1,000 points of my opponents. Now that's dead heroes, that's dead hammer units. And again, we define hammer units as the units we want to fight with. That could clear troops off an objective, that can bring down monsters, terrors. So when it comes to these once per game abilities, all I'd ever want to do is use them as early as possible so that I can get the most effect out of them. And then it can turn a bad situation of, they've got a unit of 60 goblins, and I brought a really elite army. Well, if they only gave me 60 goblins to shoot at, I'm shooting 60 goblins. Normally, I wouldn't be able to clear that, but I'm going to get 24 shots. That's potentially 48 damage. And then it's neutered. Is it the best use of my points? Probably not, but does it allow me to actually contest an objective or force my opponent to do something different because I used my really cool ability? Yes. And we adapt with the battlefield and that we're given and the game and the army and the opponent we're playing against. You can do a lot, but if you don't have the troops to use your once per game ability on, it's going to be rough. Like for Fire Slayers, the Volkite Berserkers have a once per game ability where if they die, they can fight on death. They get a worse version of the Blood Warrior ability. But in the right circumstance, especially in like the beginning of games when you still have a lot in your unit and they're probably just going to die, and you've got the support heroes to bring them back on a rally on a 4-up, or you have the new Fire Slayer hero that as they die, it allows them to superpower other units, and then you rally and bring them back, and it's a never-ending volley of Volkites. That can just really do a lot more damage than people expect, and then you just regenerate the Volkites. You pull yourself out of combat so that on your turn, in your hero phase, you rally on a 4-up. You lost 10 dudes that were screening an objective. Great. And now they're dead. You pull them out, and you have a great time fighting. Or the once per game abilities of they charged you, so now you're going to always fight first with those Volkites. You could pop both if it's going to be that much of a nasty fight, because Volkites don't generally have a lot of attacks. There's ways to buff it, but, in our scenario, this is a way to get around the lack of attacks on a Volkite Berserker unit is, they get charged. You pop the always strikes first thing. You do okay damage. There's still plenty of the enemy left. They hit, kill half your unit of 20 Volkites. 10 of them are dead. Then you know what? Those 10 get to pile in and fight again. And because of these weird coherency rules, you weren't going to get the full 20 unit in there anyway. But now you can. They pile in and fight. And then you pull yourself out of combat. And you're like, all right, cool. That was your turn. Now on my turn, in my hero phase, I'm going to spend a command point to rally them back. And then you've got a full unit of Volkites again. And if the unit wasn't enough before to make it worthwhile, I because I got 10 and 10, it was this I had the full unit of 20 because of how I used my thing. Or even better, if let's say, you always fought first and then that happened, um, that could push people back from the objectives that maybe they tanked everything. You know, it's setting up different ways for you to be successful. And if you just don't have the models or the resources to do it later in the game, you're just going to feel bad that you like wasted the once per game ability when you had like 5 Volkites left and they put up a fight, but it's not the same. And with some of these things like a call for aid for Stormcast, again, as an example, you can bring back units, but then you're worried about protecting your heroes. There are some once per game abilities like Cruel Boys, I believe, have a way to get like a 5-up ward versus shooting. If you sit on that, I believe it's like Mork's Shiny Eye Pebble or something like that. And if you just sit on that and wait, and into a Stormcast guy that's gonna be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna use my Thunderbolt Volley and just mow you down. You're like, nope, flip the pebble. It can counteract. It can, but you still have to have stuff left. You still have to have that hero. If you're like, no, I'm not gonna use it, and the person targets your hero and kills it, you're just like, dang, that just feels bad. But at least if you're using that to counteract their once per game ability, even if it doesn't feel like the optimal choice for your strategy, it's at least forcing your opponent to use their once per game ability, and vice versa. You're still on an even playing field at that point. And if you have once per game abilities that make you more survivable, again, use them earlier, just so then you have more stuff alive for later in the game when bodies start to get generally thin to hold objectives. And my final thing with this is, what's the best way to keep track of these once per game abilities? Because in Age of Sigmar, people refer to it kind of more as a beer and pretzels game. You play on the weekends once or twice a month. There's a lot of rules. It is supposed to be a bit more rules condensed and a little simpler than 40k because you don't have all the stratagems and all the special weapons and all, like how do I keep track of this bookkeeping now that I've got my heroic actions and all my other stuff? And my best thing to say to this is you need some kind of tokens, because it shows you and your opponent what you all have left to use, and you can play a more honest game that way. Where, if your opponent knows you've got this once per game ability that you're sitting on, maybe they won't charge you because they don't want to give you the always strikes first ability. They want you to waste it and sit on that long enough so they can shoot you down, so then you've got less stuff to use it on. Or they don't have shooting, and then they're just nervous. And they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to make this charge, man. I don't know what I want to do, And more importantly, too, I like it even when people make their own tokens. Like, I've bought tokens off of different things, whether it was Amazon, Etsy, my local gaming store, friends that make them. But, I have friends that make them, and you can just make your own, too. And it could be another cool level to your hobby where it's like, well, you made your own Aether Quartz token. So you've got these little cool tokens out, like whether you 3D print stuff or you have access to a laser cutter because you work for some factory and they're just looking the other way. I don't know. But maybe it's like how you make tokens for a lot of all-out defenses and stuff, where it's like you had some extra shields on a sprue and you just took it off and painted it and put it on a spare base. Maybe that could be your always fights first thing. Is you've got spare battle axes, and that's how you're gonna remember. So you put the little battle axe you have on like a spare 25mm base next to your unit, and it looks really cool. Get as creative as you want with them. Just get them. It could be as low intensity or as high intensity as you want, but it can be a lot of bookkeeping. And one more visual cue can only really help you and your opponent to play an honest game of Warhammer. And then you don't have to worry about gotchas. Because it's like, oh, I didn't know you had that ability. I'm like, I told you that was my token. That's why there's a weird floating axe going by. I'm going to burn the axe, take the token off the thing. So it's very clear to you and myself what is going on, and we can have a fun and honest game of Warhammer. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to class today. If you have any questions you want answered, leave them in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, generic YouTuber promotions. It's the things coming up. The Animosity campaign is kicking off. I'm a big fan of what they do. Just as a cool thing, watch all your other YouTubers, leave nice comments, help people grow their channels. We hit the over 800 mark. Life is great. And in about the end of July, I am going to be taking part in the Rantathon for mental health. And I just want to give it a shout out now, and I will be slowly giving out more shout outs as more information comes up. The magical Mr. Mephisto, the most dangerous and quaint man in Age of Sigmar, and also RPGs and any other content he wants to do. He yearly does a charity event to raise money for mental health awareness and mental health programs. And I, yet again, have helped and assisted with setting up the schedule, confirming guests. We're going to have, like, Vincent Venturella is going to be on. I believe some of the guys from Tough Crowd and the Gaming Club, if you don't know them. And people from different podcasts, Rerolling Ones, huge fans of the channel here. Haywo's going to be there. And it all goes to raising money for mental health awareness and mental health programs for assistance. And as more information comes out that I'm allowed to give out, we will be doing more with that. And I'll be running little commercials and stuff myself, at least on my channel. So thank you again for watching. Be kind to each other. And as I say at the end of all of our videos, class dismissed. Bye.